Hello there, Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Let's tap into the energy around your connection and the person you're focused on and see what Spirit wants to reveal today. As always, keep what resonates with your heart and release anything that isn't meant for you. All right, Aries, let's get into your reading. All right, the message that I have for you today is this: the silence is officially ending now. A truth has been locked behind closed doors, and those doors are swinging wide open as we speak. What was kept from you is surfacing, and the revelation will shift everything you thought you understood. This person held back words that could have changed your world, and that restraint is finally collapsing. The dam they built around their honesty is cracking, and nothing can contain what spills out from here. A confession brewed underneath every interaction you shared, and it reached a pressure they can no longer sustain. Let us come in close today, because the cards validate this exposure with precision that cannot be questioned. The first card is Judgment, and it announces a reckoning that built slowly and is now fully arriving. Judgment says the hour of truth landed, and this person can no longer outrun what they owe you. This card carries the demand of accountability, and it insists that buried realities be dragged into daylight. What they concealed was never meant to stay underground, and Judgment confirms the expiration on secrecy has come. The universe itself is orchestrating this reveal, and no amount of human willpower can override divine timing here. They sat with this longer than you realize, and the guilt has corroded their inner peace beyond repair. Judgment placed this moment exactly where it belongs, and not a single second earlier or later than planned. This card does not negotiate. It arrives when the soul is forced to face its own hiding. The truth heading toward you was shielded by fear, but that fear lost its authority over them completely. Their conscience grew unbearable, and the cost of silence now outweighs the cost of speaking their truth. Judgment says they will deliver this confession not from comfort, but because holding it became physically impossible. The next card is the Tower, and it confirms a sudden rupture in the wall they built. The Tower does not give warnings. It strikes when the structure of a lie can no longer hold. What crumbles here is the facade they maintained, and the collapse will be visible to both of you. The Tower confirms that this reveal will not trickle out gently. It will land with force and clarity. Their carefully constructed silence is being dismantled, piece, by something greater than their own will. This card says the foundation they stood on was never stable, and the cracks finally reached the surface. The Tower reveals that external events are accelerating this confession, and circumstances are removing their ability to stall. They lost control of the narrative, and what was private is about to become something you witness firsthand. This card confirms the collapse of every barrier, every shield placed between their honesty and your knowing. The Tower does not destroy without purpose. It clears what was false so that raw truth can stand. Their wall served them for a season, but that season is ending, and nothing can extend it now. What collapses now needed to fall, and the ground that remains after will be more honest than before. Then we have the Page of Swords, and this card brings the actual delivery of words to you. The Page of Swords confirms a direct message forming, one that cuts through every layer of fog. This person is preparing to speak with a sharpness and honesty they have never offered you before. The Page of Swords says their words will arrive unfiltered, raw, and stripped of the usual careful editing. New information is about to reach you, and it will rewrite portions of the story you believed entirely. This card confirms the communication is imminent, and the tone of it will feel different from anything prior. The Page of Swords does not soften its blade, and neither will the confession heading your way now. What they finally say will answer questions you stopped asking and fill gaps you learned to live around. Their honesty will carry an urgency you have not witnessed from them before, and it will feel unmistakable. Every card confirms the same undeniable shift. This person is breaking their silence and delivering buried truth. Now, let us go deeper into this, because your side of this story holds weight that needs attention. You have been carrying a quiet suspicion for longer than you admit, and it eats at you daily. Your gut told you that something was off, and you ignored it because the alternative felt too painful. A restlessness has settled into your bones, and no distraction has been strong enough to shake it loose. You lie awake, replaying conversations, searching for the cracks, and wondering what lived between the lines spoken. The uncertainty wore you thin, and your patience for half-truths reached its limit a long time ago. Let us see what the cards reveal, because they mirror exactly what has been stirring beneath your surface. The first card is the Four of Swords, and it confirms the mental exhaustion you battled alone. Your mind has not rested properly in weeks, and the weight of unanswered questions drains you steadily. The Four of Swords shows a person forced into stillness, not by choice, but by pure depletion inside. You have been overthinking every detail, every word, and every silence until your thoughts blur into noise. This card confirms you reached a breaking point mentally, and your spirit demanded a pause you kept denying. The exhaustion is not laziness, it is the aftermath of carrying doubt without any confirmation to resolve it. Your brain cycles through the same questions on repeat, and each rotation digs the groove a little deeper. The Four of Swords says you shut down emotionally at times, not from coldness, but from sheer overload. You withdrew into yourself because the outside world offered no clarity, and solitude felt safer than confusion. You masked the turmoil well, but underneath that composure lives a fatigue touching every part of you. The Four of Swords confirms your need for truth is not curiosity, it is survival at this point. The mental loop you are trapped in became a prison, and you feel the walls closing tighter. The next card is the Hermit, and it speaks directly to the isolation you chose as your shield. You pulled away from people who could have helped because explaining this situation felt impossible and exhausting. The Hermit confirms you have been processing this alone, carrying the full weight without splitting it with anyone. Your solitude became a habit, and inside that quiet space, you searched for answers that never fully appeared. This card shows a person holding a lantern in the dark, and that lantern is your own intuition. You already sensed fragments of the truth before it was offered, and those fragments haunted your quietest hours. The Hermit says your withdrawal was not weakness. It was a necessary retreat to preserve what remained. You stopped trusting your own perception because the silence made you question whether your instincts were accurate. The Hermit reveals you mourned something privately, and no one around you even recognized it was happening. Your grief was invisible, folded neatly behind a functioning exterior, and that loneliness deepened with every passing week. You are ready to step out of the shadows, and the heaviness of not knowing is lifting now. Then we have the Queen of Cups, and she reflects the emotional depth you have been guarding carefully. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is the very instrument that detected the dishonesty others overlooked entirely. The Queen of Cups confirms you absorbed every inconsistency, every shift in tone, and stored it all internally. You felt the fractures before you saw them, and that intelligence cost you more peace than it saved. This card shows a heart that loves deeply but protects itself fiercely, and yours has been doing both. The Queen of Cups says compassion kept you silent, even when your anger deserved to speak. You swallowed reactions you were entitled to, and the residue of that restraint still sits in your chest. This card confirms you deserve truth not as a favor, but as a right you were always denied. Every card validates what you already sensed. The unease was real, the doubt was justified, and clarity comes. The Four of Swords showed your exhaustion. The Hermit exposed your solitude, and the Queen honored your depth. Okay, come in close, because now we step into their inner world and what festers behind their mask. This person has been suffocating under the burden, the sheer weight of what they kept from you. Their emotional state is fractured, and the act of holding this secret reshaped who they became around you. They do not sleep the way they used to, and guilt occupies the space where rest once lived. Every interaction with you became a performance, and maintaining that performance drained them in ways nobody witnessed. The version of themselves they showed you was edited, and carrying that edited self hollowed them out inside. Let us go ahead and dive into this, because the cards expose exactly what churns beneath their composure. The first card is the Six of Cups, and it reveals the nostalgia that haunts their every thought. This person clings to memories of how things were before the secret, before the distance settled between you. The Six of Cups confirms they mourn a version of your connection, one that felt honest and uncomplicated. They replay old moments obsessively, comparing the warmth of what was to the tension of what exists now. Their attachment to the past is not sentimental, it is grief disguised as memory, and it consumes them. This card shows that they ache for the ease you once shared, knowing their choices corroded it slowly. The Six of Cups says their guilt intensifies every time a good memory surfaces, because it reminds them. They remember your trust, and the weight of betraying it presses heavier than any consequence they imagined. This card confirms their emotional world is anchored to a time before deception, and they want it back. Their longing for restoration is genuine, but shame keeps them frozen in a cycle of avoidance and regret. The Six of Cups reveals their feelings for you never faded, they just buried them under the lie. The next card is the Emperor, and it exposes the rigid control they imposed on themselves to function. This person built an internal fortress around the truth, and they governed that fortress with iron discipline. The Emperor confirms they suppressed every impulse to confess, using willpower to override what their conscience demanded. Their silence was not accidental, it was a calculated structure designed to protect themselves from your reaction. They feared your judgment more than anything, and that fear became the architect of every wall they raised. The Emperor shows a person sitting on a throne of composure, but that throne is built on sand. Their authority over this secret is crumbling, and the exhaustion of maintaining control has weakened their foundation. This card reveals their rigidity masked a deep terror, the fear of losing you if the truth emerged. They convinced themselves that silence was protection, but the cards confirm it became a prison they cannot escape. The Emperor says their control extended into every conversation, every interaction, every guarded moment with you. Every word they spoke was measured, every response was filtered, and that constant vigilance destroyed their peace. Their exterior projected stability, but behind that projection lived a person unraveling quietly from the strain of it. Then we have the Seven of Swords, and this card names the deception directly without any softening here. This person carried a lie, and they knew the cost of it every single day they held it. The Seven of Swords confirms they operated from a place of secrecy, moving carefully to avoid detection always. Their guilt is not theoretical, it is physical, and it manifests in tension they carry through their body. This card shows a figure sneaking away with stolen truth, and that image mirrors exactly what they did. They took your right to know and hid it, and the shame of that theft eats them alive. The Seven of Swords says their conscience screamed at them daily, but survival instinct silenced it each time. What they concealed was not hidden out of malice, it was hidden out of paralyzing fear of loss. Their deception was a desperate act, not a calculated betrayal, and that distinction tortures them even more now. This card confirms they reached a point where the lie, finally, became heavier than truth ever was. So, let us see what the cards are showing, because the energy shifted from feeling to doing. The standstill is over, and this person is making concrete moves that will bring the truth to you. Decisions have already been made behind closed doors, and the execution of those decisions is now underway. They crossed a threshold internally, and there is no mechanism left that can pull them back from this. What unfolds next is not gradual, it is sharp, deliberate, and aimed directly at reaching you with honesty. The gears turned, the plan formed, and the only remaining piece is the delivery landing in your lap. Let us go into it, because these cards map the exact actions this person is preparing to take. The first card is the Two of Wands, and it confirms a decision locked firmly into place. This person stood at a crossroads, weighed both directions, and chose the path that leads straight to you. The Two of Wands shows them holding the future in their hands, and they picked confrontation over hiding. They mapped out how this conversation will unfold, and the planning carries a seriousness that was absent before. This card confirms they are not winging this. They strategized their approach with full awareness of the stakes. The Two of Wands says they considered walking away from the truth entirely, but something pulled them forward. Their choice was final, and the momentum behind that choice is building faster than they originally anticipated. They cleared distractions from their schedule and carved out time specifically dedicated to this exchange with you. The Two of Wands reveals that preparation is complete, and what remains is purely the act of execution. This card confirms they are no longer stalling, negotiating, or bargaining with themselves about whether to proceed. External circumstances also aligned to push this forward, and doors that were once closed opened without their effort. The next card is the Knight of Swords, and it brings aggressive forward motion aimed directly at contact. The Knight of Swords charges without hesitation, and this person has adopted that same relentless energy right now. Their approach will not be gentle or eased in slowly. It will arrive with force and directness intact. This card confirms the speed of what approaches, and there will be no build-up or warning beforehand. They are done rehearsing, done calculating, and they moved into a phase of pure, unfiltered action today. The Knight of Swords says they will reach out through a method you do not expect at all. Communication is the weapon this card carries, and the message will be blunt and impossible to miss. This card reveals that outside forces may trigger the final push, an event or conversation forcing the hand. The Knight of Swords does not wait for invitations, and neither will this person in the days approaching. Their pace has accelerated dramatically, and the timeline for this reveal compressed into something far shorter than planned. What once felt distant is now imminent, and their behavior reflects a person committed to following through completely. The Knight of Swords confirms there is no retreat. The charge began, and momentum is fully locked. Then we have the Wheel of Fortune, and it signals a turning point neither of you can control. Fate itself is intervening in this situation, and the universe arranged circumstances that make silence impossible now. The Wheel of Fortune confirms external events are conspiring, quietly and precisely, to force this truth open. A coincidence, a conversation, or an unexpected encounter will act as the catalyst that breaks everything loose. This card says the timing is not random, it is cosmically orchestrated, and it was always meant. The Wheel of Fortune reveals that cycles are completing, and what was buried must surface with them. Their hand is being forced by life itself, and the final push comes from outside their own choosing. This card confirms destiny placed this moment on the calendar long before either of you ever saw it. The wheel turns, the truth rises, and no force on this earth can delay what is already moving. Every card confirms that action replaced hesitation, speed replaced caution, and fate sealed the timeline permanently here. Now, let us go ahead and get into it, because what they suppress reveals the real story. Their confession is not a footnote, it is the entire unwritten chapter of your shared history. What they buried reaches into the core of who they became, and it altered everything around them quietly. They rehearsed this confession privately 1,000 times, and each version revealed more than the last. The words they swallowed reshaped their posture, their sleep, and their ability to be present with you. Behind every guarded sentence lives a raw admission they could never, no matter how hard, bring to voice. These cards pull back the final curtain on their hidden world, and nothing stays covered after this moment. The first card is the Hanged Man, and it reveals a sacrifice you never knew about at all. This person gave up a part of themselves to sustain the lie, and that loss haunts them still. The Hanged Man confirms they traded their own peace willingly to protect a version that served you. They believed the sacrifice was noble, but the cards show it rotted them from the inside outward. Their hidden confession is that clarity arrived recently, and it shattered every justification they once relied upon. What felt like protection now registers as betrayal in their own mind, and they cannot unsee that shift. The Hanged Man says they lived suspended between two worlds, the one you know and the one hidden. Their secret is that the version of themselves you trusted was incomplete, and they mourn that gap daily. They confess silently that the suspension grew unbearable, and they would trade anything to rewind the choice. A perspective shift happened inside them permanently, and the truth they carry now contradicts what you believed entirely. This card confirms their admission is not just about a lie, it is about a life they altered. The next card is the Nine of Cups, and it exposes the wish they guard behind their teeth. This person wants forgiveness from you more than air, and that craving dominates their entire inner world. The Nine of Cups confirms their secret wish is restoration, a return to the bond before the damage. They fantasize about you hearing everything and still choosing to stay, and that fantasy sustains them nightly. Their hidden desire is not just to confess, it is to be understood and not discarded after speaking. The Nine of Cups says they dream of your mercy, your grace, and a chance deemed unworthy. They want you to know the lie was never disrespect, and proving that now matters more than pride. This card reveals they secretly wish they chose honesty from the start, and that regret is bottomless. Their confession includes knowing they underestimated you, and they realize now you deserved the full, unedited truth. The Nine of Cups confirms they hold a vision of reconciliation so vivid it rivals waking life itself. What they cannot say, not unprompted, is that losing you is the one outcome they will not survive. Their wish is not selfish, it is desperate, and the desperation springs from knowing they caused the fracture. Then we have the Ace of Cups, and this card carries the purest emotional confession of this reading. This person loves you in a way they never articulated, and that love roots every choice they made. The Ace of Cups confirms their hidden truth is not just regret, it is overwhelming, untold devotion. They confess in silence that everything they did, even the hiding, was filtered through fear of losing you. This card holds an emotional beginning they lacked the courage to offer you openly, without reservation or filter. The Ace of Cups says their heart poured into you long ago, and they never took it back. Their confession is that love was always present, underneath the deception, driving every choice they made quietly. What they will never volunteer, not willingly, is that you are the most important presence they know. They guarded that truth fiercely because admitting it meant exposing just how much was truly at stake. The Ace of Cups reveals they wrote confessions they burned, whispered truths into empty rooms, and wept alone. Every card exposes the same buried reality. This person carries love, regret, and confessions that ache for release. All right, let us go ahead and dive into this because the near future brings resolution you waited for. What approaches is not more confusion, it is the clarity you earned through every ounce of patience. The first card for the near future is the Sun, and it confirms illumination flooding into your life. The Sun says every hidden thing steps into full visibility, and the truth arrives bathed in light. There will be no more shadows after this conversation lands, and the fog you lived in finally lifts. The Sun confirms that what is revealed brings relief, not further pain, and understanding replaces the unknown. This card promises a turning point where honesty becomes the foundation and everything rebuilds from that ground. The Sun says the near future holds a conversation, one that changes the entire landscape between you. What was fractured begins mending once the truth is spoken, and both of you will feel that shift. For the advice card, we have Justice, and it asks you to receive this truth with steady composure. Justice says you deserve every answer coming your way, but how you hold it will shape what follows. Listen before you react, absorb before you respond, and let the full picture form before drawing conclusions. Justice confirms that fairness is your strongest weapon here, and wielding it wisely protects your own peace. The advice is to honor what you feel, without letting reaction override the clarity you fought for. Do not minimize what they reveal, and do not exaggerate. Let the truth exist at its real size. Justice says your discernment is sharp, knowing what deserves forgiveness and what deserves a firm boundary. Trust yourself through this, because every card confirmed your instincts were flawless from the very beginning. The cards stood behind you from the first draw to the last, and that support never wavered once. Now let me bring the full message together, because the reading spoke with one unified voice throughout. The message today was this: the hiding ends, the silence breaks, and truth is arriving at your door. This person held back a confession that changed the shape of everything between you, and they know it. Their guilt consumed them, their fear paralyzed them, and their love for you outlasted both of those forces. The cards confirmed they are actively moving toward you with honesty, and fate sealed that timeline permanently. Their hidden confessions include devotion, regret, and a wish for restoration that borders on desperation inside them. The near future holds illumination, and the advice is to receive it with grace and strength you carry. Let me walk you through every card that appeared today, because each one built this message together. Judgment, the Tower, and the Page of Swords opened with reckoning, collapse of walls, and truth delivered. The Four of Swords, the Hermit, and the Queen of Cups honored your exhaustion, solitude, and emotional depth. The Six of Cups, the Emperor, and the Seven of Swords exposed their nostalgia, control, and deception. The Two of Wands, the Knight of Swords, and the Wheel of Fortune confirmed action, speed, and fate. The Hanged Man, the Nine of Cups, and the Ace of Cups unveiled sacrifice, wishes, and raw devotion. The Sun and Justice closed this reading with clarity ahead and balanced wisdom as your guiding anchor forward. 17 cards spoke today, and every single one confirmed that the silence is ending and truth is arriving. This is not a reading of speculation. It is built on confirmation that echoed through every card pulled. What you sensed was always accurate. What you endured was never wasted. And what comes next honors you. You walked through fog with your instincts intact, and that alone proves how resilient your spirit truly is. The truth heading your way will not destroy you. It will set the record straight where it belongs. You are stronger than the uncertainty ever made you feel, and the cards recognized that strength throughout today. Hold on to your worth, trust the timing, and know that clarity finds the ones brave enough to wait. Thank you so much for sitting with me through this, and for trusting me with something this personal. I appreciate your energy, your openness, and the courage it took to seek answers most avoid. The Sun says every hidden thing steps into full visibility, and the truth arrives bathed in light. There will be no more shadows after this conversation lands, and the fog you lived in finally lifts. The Sun confirms that what is revealed brings relief, not further pain, and understanding replaces the unknown. This card promises a turning point where honesty becomes the foundation and everything rebuilds from that ground. The Sun says the near future holds a conversation, one that changes the entire landscape between you. What was fractured begins mending once the truth is spoken, and both of you will feel that shift. For the advice card, we have Justice, and it asks you to receive this truth with steady composure. Justice says you deserve every answer coming your way, but how you hold it will shape what follows. Listen before you react, absorb before you respond, and let the full picture form before drawing conclusions. Justice confirms that fairness is your strongest weapon here, and wielding it wisely protects your own peace. The advice is to honor what you feel, without letting reaction override the clarity you fought for. Do not minimize what they reveal, and do not exaggerate. Let the truth exist at its real size. Justice says your discernment is sharp, knowing what deserves forgiveness and what deserves a firm boundary. Trust yourself through this, because every card confirmed your instincts were flawless from the very beginning. The cards stood behind you from the first draw to the last, and that support never wavered once. Now let me bring the full message together, because the reading spoke with one unified voice throughout. The message today was this: the hiding ends, the silence breaks, and truth is arriving at your door. This person held back a confession that changed the shape of everything between you, and they know it. Their guilt consumed them, their fear paralyzed them, and their love for you outlasted both of those forces. The cards confirmed they are actively moving toward you with honesty, and fate sealed that timeline permanently. Their hidden confessions include devotion, regret, and a wish for restoration that borders on desperation inside them. The near future holds illumination, and the advice is to receive it with grace and strength you carry. Let me walk you through every card that appeared today, because each one built this message together. Judgment, the Tower, and the Page of Swords opened with reckoning, collapse of walls, and truth delivered. The Four of Swords, the Hermit, and the Queen of Cups honored your exhaustion, solitude, and emotional depth. The Six of Cups, the Emperor, and the Seven of Swords exposed their nostalgia, control, and deception. The Two of Wands, the Knight of Swords, and the Wheel of Fortune confirmed action, speed, and fate. The Hanged Man, the Nine of Cups, and the Ace of Cups unveiled sacrifice, wishes, and raw devotion. The Sun and Justice closed this reading with clarity ahead and balanced wisdom as your guiding anchor forward. 17 cards spoke today, and every single one confirmed that the silence is ending and truth is arriving. This is not a reading of speculation. It is built on confirmation that echoed through every card pulled. What you sensed was always accurate. What you endured was never wasted. And what comes next honors you. You walked through fog with your instincts intact, and that alone proves how resilient your spirit truly is. The truth heading your way will not destroy you. It will set the record straight where it belongs.